hate reading. And I was super confused because in my very limited 7-year-old worldview, it didn't square that you could not like to read. And I didn't understand it, so I started going around to schools and I would work with students on reading and writing and trying to help people my own age understand that books and language arts are about so much more than just being assigned something, having to get through a chapter or something for school. But it's about creating worlds. It's about following your imagination wherever it takes you. And so teaching from a very young age was an absolutely integral part of my personal learning journey. And from that very humble beginning at the age of 7 years old with writing books, speaking at elementary schools, about writing to young people, I started going to education conferences and schools around the world. And what I realized was that students have so much to teach. Students have as much to teach as we do to learn, and it's incredibly vital and important that we listen to student voices in education. And that's why I'm extraordinarily glad to be here today. I'm extraordinarily glad to see students represented here in the audience. Can you stand up if you're a student? All right. So I can practically see my home right across the bay. And while there, I've been part of a lot of campus groups. I've continued to do a lot of public speaking. But the thing that people forget, when anyone introduces me based off of what's on my resume, so there's like a TED Talk, and published a book, and all this cool stuff, right? But they don't know about my F's and B's and AP's IO in 12th grade, or how I struggled to barely pass pre-calc that I took over the summer, or how even this semester, the astronomy class that was supposed to be my easy breath course, I managed to fail midterm 1, midterm 2, and midterm 3. Oh. What I mean to say with all of this is that we should be kinder to ourselves than our transcripts are. And we should never ever let numbers define us, whether those numbers are our GPAs, or the number of people who call us smart or dumb or whatever else, because a lot of people have called me smart and a lot of people have also called me really bad at math. And honestly, all those words and numbers, we kind of throw them out the window and realize that every single one of us, no matter where we started our learning journey, no matter where we are right now, no matter how many F's we got on those astronomy midterms, we all deserve to have a voice and we all have something very important, powerful to say right here today. So, maybe some of you have heard this Albert Einstein quote, "Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid." So, with that quote in mind, I want to kick off today's event. I want to extend huge congratulations to the art show winners, who I believe are on the screens behind me, and a huge shout out to the Parents Education Network, who organized today's event. And so PEN is this incredible coalition of parents collaborating with educators, students, and the community to bring academic success to students with learning and attention differences. This is the 7th year of EdRev. 7th year! And EdRev has drawn national attention as the largest gathering of students who learn differently, and their families, and the educators who support them. So could we see a raised hand if you're a parent? For the parents in the house, awesome. Huge kudos to you for all that you do. My parents have been absolutely integral in my learning journey, and I know that all the students here probably know that their parents are incredibly important too. And raise your hand if you're an educator. Seeing some educators, awesome. Thank you so much for all that you do. So this year we're excited to broaden the conversation by sharing the stage with others outside of the learning differences community who have similar missions. And the more we have conversations like the one today at EdRev, the greater our collective impact. So, as I mentioned before, I'm incredibly glad to see you all here, and I'd like to introduce Dewey Rossetti, who's the founder of PEN, and Laura Maloney, who is the executive director. Please give them a huge round of applause for that somehow, eventually. So I really appreciate what you said, and I think that one clear theme that we saw there was just how important persistence is, particularly when people tell you no, when they put a dead end in your way. You just gotta straight up lie and attach to a Supreme Court justice. Actually, maybe the lying part is not recommended. But definitely I can relate a lot to that story because as a kid, when I was 6 and 7 years old, I was really, I'm still into writing, but I guess you could say it's my first love. I would spend all hours of the night just writing on this like sheet of legal paper, coming up with stories, scraps of paper, napkins, pulling a JK Rowling. So some of you might have similar interests. What is your all-consuming interest? It could be skateboarding, it could be mathematics. Just shout it out.
Reading.
Changing the world? All right, what about this side? Art? Poetry? I feel you. What was that?
Coding.
Math and science? Music? What about back there? What are your passions? Comedy? Cars? A little louder? Hockey?
No, horseback riding.
Soccer! Okay, you know what? Soccer, hockey, they both have people in them. So our passions are extraordinarily wide-ranging, from hockey to mathematics to writing, everything else in between. And I really exhort you to think about what are your strengths in those areas. How can you be continually persistent when it comes to doing what you want to do? And one area, this is something that I've spoken about really widely, is I believe sometimes naivete can be your best friend. So when I was really young and I loved writing and I told my parents I want to get a book published, they didn't tell me no. So when it comes to my own learning journey, I realized that my best helpers and guides along the way were my parents. And the fact is they didn't try to take away that naivete from me. They didn't tell me, no, getting published is really hard, and realistically, you're not going to be able to do it. Instead, they let me call up tons of people, so I can definitely relate to the calling people and being terrified and trying to get through to folks and trying to get through really surly interns who had to have their coffee for the day and these kinds of things. And I'm so glad that they didn't tell me no. Now, raise your hand if somebody has told you no before. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of raised hands. Raise your hand if you let somebody telling you no keep you from doing something you really wanted to do. Okay, see some raised hands. I heard somebody say that happened to me today. Yeah, I feel you. So my challenge is to draw some inspiration from Road Trip Nation. And next time you have a really big idea, you have a really bright idea, I want you to be your best supporter. And I also challenge all the parents out there, when your kid has this big, bright idea, don't diminish that light. Don't say this is going to be really hard, because sure it'll be hard, but with persistence, the kind of persistence that we saw from the story that Jason told, then it's really possible to get things done. So, the next person that I'm going to introduce is somebody who is a true testament to the power of persistence and creativity and big ideas. Zach Mohammed is the founder and executive director of Student Voice, which is an organization dedicated to amplifying student voices in education. And you might ask, why is student voice so important? Shouldn't we just leave the decisions up to a bunch of adults who have gone through life and know what to do? But the thing is that we as students, we sit every day in those classroom chairs. We are the first-hand witnesses. We are the biggest stakeholders in education. And the decisions that are made in education affect us first and foremost, so it makes sense that we should have a voice. Raise your hand if you're a student and you would like to have a voice in your education. All right, I'm seeing a fair number of raised hands. So this is extraordinarily important for us to realize that we need to have this voice and be represented not only in local education, but also in the conversation nationally. Because all of these discussions that are happening around things like Common Core, or standardized testing, or diversity and inclusivity in schools, or safety at school, all these really big hot button issues, these are things that we know about, that we can speak to powerfully. So Zach started Student Voice to address education reform from a student perspective and really bring more students into the conversation. He's currently a junior at University of Maryland, where he created a major in engagement in media. And Student Voice is currently working on the Student Bill of Rights, a way for students and education stakeholders to vote on issues in their schools ranging from free expression to diversity and inclusivity that matter to them. So at the same time as we welcome Zach on stage, I want to think of a way that we can top the earlier selfie that was taken, because I'm competitive. So can we do a wave? Do y'all know how to do a wave? Okay, so Zach, why don't you come on up and we can orchestrate this somehow. I'm gonna get my camera out. And you know what? We're gonna do a selfie video as you do a wave. Yeah, we're next level. So wait, how do we do a wave? Poli-sci class, he shared a really wonderful quote, and I might be paraphrasing badly here, but everyone is born an original, too many die copies. And what he just spoke to you about the power of originality and the power of the uniqueness of your voice is a message that I hope everyone walks away with. I would like to thank all the organizations coming here today for broadening the important conversations around education. And change is happening in education. It is so important that our voices are part of that change. Currently, this gathering, EdRev, does not support itself, so if you would like to see it continue and to allow others to experience the transformation of this day, please text EdRev, E-D-R-E-V, to 56512. So you'll see the signs all over popping up. Text EdRev to 56512. And thank you all for coming, for sharing your passions, your creativity, your drive to change education. Because this is all about reimagining learning journeys, telling more incredible stories. And I'd like to introduce the first ever episode of the Super D Kids now. You're about to see the pilot episode of a new web series produced by the nonprofit Dyslexia Bill, shown for the first time in public here at EdRev. The Super D show features real kids, just like many of you in the audience, with learning differences. So look for the D-Ville team and their animated helpers, the D Squad, in the dugout today. And you'll be able to meet founder and Oscar-winning filmmaker Peggy Stern and learn more about the Super D show and Dyslexia Bill. After you watch the Super D show right now, show your support for Super D Kids and tell the world that thinking differently is thinking smart. You know what, let's redefine that word smart. I think that a lot of people chase the word smart. We try to live up to the word smart, but ultimately, instead of trying to reach for something that seems far away or seems to be someone else's definition, let's define smart for ourselves. And I want you to all tweet at #SuperDKids. So if you have your phones, if you have your Twitter on your smartphones, definitely take that out. And now we present to you the Super D Show. Thank you all so much. So this is actually a really awesome question. What do all students have the right to? So what do you think all students have a right to? On this side, just shout it out. Freedom of speech, I like it. Yeah, totally agree there. What else? Good education?
Yes.
What about personalized learning?
Yeah.
No homework? What else? To be able to advocate for themselves, great, and have people who also advocate for you, I think, in areas where it's more difficult to advocate for yourself, which is a more cumbersome answer. But what else? Achieve your dreams, great. Respect? To learn differently. Yeah, I think respect is an incredibly important point. Everyone, I think, maybe like close your eyes and raise your hand if you have ever, if you're a student and you have ever heard something derogatory about your learning difference. Wow, seeing a lot of raised hands. So I think from that we see that there's a huge problem. There's a gap between what we want for education, what we know students deserve in education, which is respect, which is the ability to learn differently, and what we're seeing, which is that oftentimes learning differences are stigmatized or treated like they're problems that need to go away instead of differences that we can work with. And the idea that every student should be able to learn differently is one that is still foreign to a lot of schools, I think. And that's something that everyone here right now can definitely change. So student voice is an incredibly important component of that, because oftentimes it takes people being able to meet somebody or being able to hear the voices of somebody who has had a challenge within a school system, who has a personal story to share, for them to really be on board. And so I definitely would encourage all of you to be in touch with folks who can make decisions and to really push for the ability to make decisions, so that your answer to that question, what do all students deserve, can be more than an ideal, but something that is realized in our reality. So student voice is an incredibly important component of that, and I encourage you to go to studentvoice.org, check out the #studentvoice. Raise your hand if you have a Twitter account. All right, I'm seeing some raised hands, so if you have Twitter, definitely get out your phone, tweet for the #EdRev and #studentvoice. And I want to now bring up students from SAFE, which is the student voice of Penn, and they're a student community that strives to educate, mentor, and support students, parents, and teachers regarding the challenges and strengths of students with learning and attention differences. They've written a book, created videos that have been shown here at EdRev, and they speak on panels about their experiences as people with learning differences, covering both strengths and struggles. So, hugely admirable group of students. Please welcome up the students from SAFE. Of the students from SAFE. They will be presenting on a panel later today in the press conference room level 1 during workshop session 1 to 2:15 p.m. So again, they'll be in the press conference room at level 1. Now, one thing that I really appreciated here from the SAFE students was this idea that schools should try to fit you, not the other way around. We shouldn't try to mold ourselves to fit what school wants us to be. And anyone who's seen Sir Ken Robinson speak, have any of you, I'm sure some of you are familiar, all right, some raised hands, you know that we should be expecting more from our schools, that we should be expecting schools that encourage creativity instead of squashing it. And I think that this has particular relevance too because schools are truly laboratories for democracy. When we think about students, we're seeing voters, citizens, and we should expect more from school because we should expect more from our nation. And if we are used to being told for 12 years that we are going to just go to a place and expect things to be the same as they always are, that we have to fit ourselves to this mold, then we may not have the skills of critical thinking, of challenging authority, of expecting innovation and expecting something better that we need in order to revolutionize our leadership as well. And thinking about the role of education when it comes to preparing today's leaders and tomorrow's leaders is very relevant to our next speaker because he is Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom. And I was actually lucky enough, so I go to school at Berkeley and my political science 179 class brings in guest speakers, so I had the chance to see the Lieutenant Governor speak a couple weeks ago. And it's really incredible to read about his story being diagnosed with dyslexia at the age of 5. And he was not told for fear that he would use that as a crutch, and then he eventually found out in 5th grade and now speaks openly and inspiringly about his experiences, recounting the strategies and attitudes that brought him success. He serves on the board of advisors for Understood, and he first got involved with EdRev in 2009 when he delivered a video introduction to the keynote presentation. So we are truly honored to have Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom join us for the keynote.
Thank you, Dora. How's everyone doing? I always wanted to get up here. Man, this is cool. Well, welcome everybody to this wacky and wonderful place I call home. About 850,000 of us.